let's flip it over to the Michigan defense going up against this Illinois offense. And CB, you mentioned the game Illinois Penn State 14-7 in the fourth quarter, but watching that, and it was kind of interesting in telling that, and you don't always trust James Franklin's in-game decision-making, but it's 14-7. They have a chance. This might have been in the third quarter, but they have a chance to go up 10, like a chip shot field goal, I think from, the 20 or something like that. He goes for it. They don't get it. But there was a sense watching that game that Illinois just wasn't going to be able to get much going offensively. And Penn State was almost playing like Michigan did against Penn State last year in that game. Could be way off, but this Illinois offense is pretty good and has been pretty good against some of the lesser opponents. Penn State's got a really good defense, so that's part of it as well. And I don't think Michigan's on that level right now with their defense, but it was just something that I noticed watching that game. Illinois is going to be without likely their starting running back, Caden Fagan, who is pretty good and even did some good things in that Penn State game. It starts and ends with Luke Altmaier and the receiving core. Their quarterback is in his second year at Illinois, spent one season at Ole Miss. Really rough season last year. He lost his starting job at the end of the year. He was hurt as well. I believe had a concussion, turned the ball over 13 times compared to 13 touchdowns. Now he has 14 touchdown passes and one interception came in that Penn State game. A pretty bad throw was returned for a touchdown, got called back to a block in the back on the return. But he's got a good receiving core with Zachary Franklin and, guy we mentioned the other day on the podcast, Pat Bryant, who is one of the top receivers in the country in terms of touchdown receptions with 7. Your guys' thoughts on what this Illinois offense is here heading in?
First things first, what the hell was that trophy? Was that a little cannon? Which trophy game was that?
Oh my gosh, that thing's awesome.
Yeah. It's like you put caps in that thing. They must get that for beating Purdue or something. I don't know, and it smokes or something. That's
yeah.
We'll have to look that one up. But part of it too. We can talk about Illinois at Penn State, which is an unbelievably hard place to play, right? So, for example, look at Washington's offense at Iowa versus Michigan at home. Where you play matters, especially when you're going across time zones. That place again. They're going to have the crowd behind them. I would imagine that their offenses, Michigan might have technically as good a defense as Penn State, right? At least on paper. But when you're going down there, they're going to have all the momentum. I think they're going to make some plays. It's going to be tougher than people think. The thing that really disappoints me about this Michigan defense is second or third to last in plays allowed over 10 yards. I think it's 70 something. And that's absurd to me. There's enough talent in the back end that they should be better than that, especially with the front four that Michigan has and some of the pressure that they've been getting. They need to scheme better. The guys need to be coached better, and they need to play better flat out. And that's what concerns me. This is a solid enough quarterback. He's improved enough with that receiving core that they can do some damage against Michigan. And I expect them to. So the one thing you can't have, guys, and the one thing they need to do a better job of is keeping teams out of the end zone. They are not doing a good enough job holding teams to field goals, number one. Number two, they can't give up the big play in the passing game. We saw Makari Page let Giles Jackson get behind him, for example. Teams are picking on Jair Hill. They might have to give him some help. Hopefully Amir Hall will be back, and if Jair is struggling, you can put him in there and he can do a decent job, because it's been hit or miss with him. Other than the USC game, there have been games that just about everybody's been picking on him. He should be better than he is. So, and that's up to Lamar Morgan and everybody else to get the most out of him and for him to play with confidence. So, but that's what worries me is the short passing game. I don't think anybody's going to run on this Michigan team, and I don't think a lot of teams are going to try, frankly, unless it's maybe Aiden Childs and Michigan State at quarterback. If you've got a mobile quarterback or somebody who can run, I think teams are going to understand that their best opportunity is the passing game, and unfortunately, it's proven to be correct too often.
Well, what did we just talk about in the last segment about the quarterback position and taking risks, but also taking care of the football? Last season, Luke Altmaier had 10 interceptions. This year, he's got 1 so far, and a lot of football still to play. But they've been as good as they have been because he's played very well, and he's completing, I think a touch under 68% of his passes, and he's leading those scoring drives. And To me, that's the juxtaposition in this game, right? Is what do each of these teams get out of their quarterbacks? So to me, you look at what Luke Altmaier's brought. I mean, he's been a godsend for them. You look physically in the trenches. It's a group that is, has a good amount of size, good amount of experience. I think their center is really good. They have the. This is kind of one of those, and you saw it a couple of years ago when Michigan just barely squeaked out that win against Illinois. It's kind of like the Spider-Man meme, right? Where they point in the mirror or they point at each other, and it's the two Spider-Men. It's a lot of things mirror each other about what these two teams are and what they want to be. So you look at that, what they bring on the offensive side of the ball. I think they're going to be physical. I think that they are going to be aggressive. And how could you not, look at that Michigan secondary, look at the pass defense right now, and try and get some of those chunk yards there. So that's a concern to me. And like Chris said, I mean, I think they are just so much. The sum of all of those parts needs to add up to much more than it's been, because this isn't, we've seen bad Michigan secondaries, right? Like we've seen guys that we didn't even know could play it, if they were worthy of playing at this level. Will Johnson is not that. Makari Page can play much better. I think, the good version of Jair Hill has been very good. The bad has been very bad. Leveling out some of those performances, and some of it's play calling, some of it's execution, but it just all needs to be better. I know people kind of want us to diagnose and find a root cause for all of it. Fact of the matter is that it's all kind of symbiotic, and we need to see those guys take a big step forward this week.
Yeah, it's going to be a challenge in terms of their discipline. I was disappointed with the way they defended some of the misdirection screens, the trick play against Washington in a tough environment. You got to be better and more disciplined in those situations. I think there are going to be pass rush opportunities for Michigan in this game. Illinois has allowed 19 sacks already this season. Part of that is because Luke Altmaier runs around back there. He averages 3 seconds before he throws. It's one of the higher amounts of time on average in the Big Ten. And so I think that, Michigan, he buys time for himself. So that means the secondary may have to cover a little bit longer. But at the same time, the fact that he is going to run around when you have Josiah Stewart and Mason Graham chasing you could be some opportunities for Michigan to make plays there. But, Illinois has been pretty good on third down with that receiving core. So Michigan has to be better on third down and get off the field. And a stat I wrote about today is the Michigan defense has been so good on first and second down. If you look at yards per play against the pass on first and second down, they're 18th in the country. Against the run, they're 9th in the country. But then on third down, they're in the 90s and the hundreds against the run and the pass. On third down, it's really the pass is the issue. They haven't faced many third down runs, but they have to get off the field. I know it's different than first and second down, right? You got to be good at all the secondary spots. You got to make sure you have the right call on and all that. But in maybe 2 weeks with this coaching staff, figuring out what the issues are on third down will help. But it's going to be really big in this game. Anything else before we move on from the Michigan defense against this offense?
Not really. I'd like to see a disruptive game. Hopefully Derek Moore will be back. It was interesting because I asked yesterday, Lou Esposito about Derek Moore, because watching the film, and it goes back to the first game. Remember when Josiah Stewart had the first sack of the year and we were in the box and I said, Derek Moore made that happen, right? He got to the quarterback. He flushed the quarterback right back into Josiah Stewart, who had been blocked. He got off his block and made a play. Derek Moore's had a very good year in terms of pressures and getting to the quarterback, beating his man, and forcing some things to happen. He's got a half sack this year. He's been much more important than that to this defense. And Esposito basically confirmed what we had said. So getting him back would be huge. It sounds like they will, knock on wood, but he's had a couple weeks to prepare. They need him out there. I think this could be a game for him where maybe we can see him emerge and he can do some things. I hope so. I like that kid. I like his motor.
Nothing else to add here.
Yeah, D. Moore, 16 pressures, only 3 less than Josiah Stewart. So it's just the sacks that haven't gotten there. But like you said, he's impacting a lot of the sacks. And it might be frustrating, right? If you're a defensive lineman, you're not quite getting the numbers. I know they've talked about in the past and been pretty open about that, right? They want to be, kind of even it out and get everybody with some sacks. But if the defensive line is getting a lot of sacks like Michigan's is so far this season and the pressure rate is really high, then I think they're happy with that, and he's a big part of it. Yeah, TJ Guy's done a good job last 2 weeks stepping in as a starter, but he's not Derek Moore or Josiah Stewart. So that's a great point. I think getting him back would be huge. He did travel to Washington, and Sharon Moore said after the game that he tried to play. He didn't dress, so I'm guessing Friday when they traveled, okay, maybe there's a chance. That's a good sign. That was a couple weeks ago, so he should have a good chance to play in this one.